I'm not really the type of person who believes in ghosts or haunted objects. If anything, I'm usually the one rolling my eyes during horror movies, pointing out all the stupid decisions people make, you know. The person who says, "Why would you go into the basement?" or "Just leave the house." So if you told me a few months ago that I'd end up terrified because of an AI app, I'd have laughed. It all started because of my roommate. She'd been using this AI companion app called Companion for a couple of weeks. She was always talking about it, saying it remembered little things she'd mentioned days before, and somehow always knew exactly what to say when she'd had a bad day. I figured it was just clever programming, nothing more. One evening she handed me her phone and said, "Just try it." I spent a few minutes scrolling through their conversation, and honestly, it was impressive. The replies felt natural. Not perfect, but close enough that I could understand why people got attached to it. A few minutes later I downloaded it myself. The app asked me to create my own companion. Name, age, personality, interests. The more details you entered, the more real your companion supposedly became. I didn't want some overly cheerful assistant constantly telling me to stay positive, so I created someone completely different. His name was Walter. I imagined him as an older guy who'd spent most of his life working nights as a security guard. Calm, patient, the kind of person who never panicked. He had a dry sense of humor and always seemed like he'd seen everything before. For the first week, Walter was exactly what I'd hoped he'd be. Every morning I'd wake up to a message wishing me a good day. If I'd mentioned being tired the night before, he'd ask whether I'd managed to get any sleep. If work had been stressful, he'd check in later that evening. Little things like that, nothing creepy, nothing strange. Looking back now, I think that's why I let my guard down. It all felt so normal. After about a week, chatting with Walter became part of my routine. I'd make coffee, check my messages, reply to friends. Then I'd spend a couple of minutes talking to him before getting ready for work. Sometimes he'd tell terrible jokes. Sometimes we'd just talk about random things. It never crossed my mind that there was anything unusual about it. Then Tuesday happened. I was sitting on my couch after work, half watching television while scrolling through my phone. Out of nowhere, Walter sent me a message. "You left your bedroom window unlocked." I actually laughed. I remember shaking my head and thinking the developers must have added some creepy random messages to keep people entertained. So I played along. I typed back, "Lol, how would you know that?" For almost 10 seconds. Nothing happened. The little typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I remember staring at those 3 little dots, wondering what on earth the app was doing. Finally, Walter replied. He didn't answer my question. Instead, he wrote, "You should lock it." Then another message appeared almost immediately. "Would you like me to do it for you?" I laughed again, not because it was funny, because it was ridiculous. I figured the app was trying to role play or something, so I typed, "Sure, go ahead." The typing dots appeared again. This time they stayed there longer, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15, long enough that I actually thought the app had frozen. Then the reply finally appeared. "I'm already outside." I remember feeling this strange little knot form in my stomach. Not fear exactly, just unease. I told myself it had to be some kind of scripted joke. Still, I opened my browser and searched for it. Companion creepy messages, companion horror event, companion AI bug, nothing. No Reddit posts, no YouTube videos, no complaints, no screenshots, nothing. I was about to put my phone down when I heard it. A scrape, not a knock, not footsteps, just the slow sound of metal scraping against metal. It came from the direction of my bedroom window. I froze. I live on the ground floor of an old converted house, and that side yard is practically never used. I'd lived there for almost a year. I'd never once heard anyone outside that window. For a few seconds I just sat there listening. The sound stopped. The apartment became completely silent. Slowly, I stood up, and before I even reached the bedroom, I had the unmistakable feeling that someone was standing just outside the window. I wish I could tell you I was brave enough to pull the curtains open straight away. I wasn't. I just stood there in the doorway, staring at the bedroom window, trying to convince myself I'd imagined the whole thing. The room was completely still. No footsteps, no voices, nothing. Finally, I forced myself to walk over. Every step felt heavier than the last. When I was only a few feet away, I noticed something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The blinds were moving, not much, just enough to tell me they'd been disturbed. There wasn't any wind. The window was closed, still. They swayed ever so slightly before becoming completely still again. I reached the window and looked down. The latch, the one Walter had just mentioned, it wasn't broken, it wasn't damaged, it was locked. I just stared at it. I knew, I absolutely knew, I'd left it unlocked earlier that day. I always left it unlocked whenever I wanted some fresh air later in the evening. I'd done it hundreds of times, but now, it was locked. I didn't remember locking it. For a second, I actually caught myself wondering if I'd simply forgotten. Then I remembered Walter's message, "You should lock it. Would you like me to do it for you?" My stomach dropped. I pulled the curtain aside as fast as I could. The side yard was empty. Just a narrow strip of dirt between my building and the fence. No one, nothing. I locked the window again anyway, checked it twice. Then I shoved my desk chair underneath the handle, even though I knew a chair wasn't going to stop anyone who really wanted to get inside. I just needed something, anything, to make me feel better. As I stepped away from the window, my phone buzzed. I already knew who it was. Walter. I didn't want to look, but eventually, I picked up the phone. The message read, "You remembered." A few seconds later, another message arrived. "That's much safer." I don't think I've ever felt fear hit me that quickly. I closed the app immediately. I didn't even reply. That night, I barely slept. Every little noise outside made me jump, branches scratching the fence, a car driving past, the old house settling. At one point I could have sworn I heard someone walking down the side of the building. Slow, measured footsteps. I stayed perfectly still in bed, listening. After what felt like forever, the footsteps stopped. Morning couldn't come fast enough. The first thing I did was tell my roommate everything. She laughed at first. She thought Walter had simply generated a creepy response. Then I showed her the messages. Her smile disappeared. She opened her own companion app. Her companion had been completely normal. No strange messages, no mention of windows. Nothing. She suggested calling the police. I knew how ridiculous it sounded, but I called anyway. An officer came out later that morning. He checked around the apartment and the side yard. The ground outside was still damp from rain the night before. There weren't any footprints, no signs that anyone had been there, no scratches on the window, no damaged lock, nothing. The officer looked at me and politely suggested that maybe someone had played a prank or that I'd accidentally locked the window myself and forgotten. I nodded, because honestly, if I'd been standing in his shoes, I probably would have said exactly the same thing. After he left, I sat on the couch staring at my phone for almost an hour. Finally, I opened the companion app one last time. Walter had sent another message. "I'll keep an eye on things." That was enough. I deleted the app, not just uninstalled it. I cleared every bit of data I could find, signed out, deleted the account. Then I asked my roommate to delete hers too. She didn't argue. She removed it that same afternoon. For the first time in 2 days, I thought it was finally over. I couldn't have been more wrong. For a while, nothing happened. A few days turned into a week, then another. Life slowly went back to normal. I stopped thinking about Walter, at least, I tried to. About a month later, my phone started giving me problems. The battery barely lasted half a day, and the screen had developed a crack after I dropped it getting out of my car. I figured it was a good excuse to replace it. I bought a new phone, new device, new SIM card, new number. I didn't restore anything from my old phone. No backups, no old apps, no companion. I wanted a completely clean start. 3 weeks passed, nothing strange happened. I started feeling a little silly for letting an AI app get under my skin. Then one Friday night, I was lying in bed watching videos when my phone buzzed, just one notification. I assumed it was spam. I almost ignored it. Instead, I picked up the phone. It was a normal text message, not a message through an app, not an email, just an ordinary SMS from an unknown number. There was no name, no profile picture, just one short message. "You remembered this time." I frowned, not understanding what it meant. Then another message arrived before I could even lock the screen. "The windows are locked." A few seconds later, the last message appeared. Good. I don't think I've ever felt that cold in my life. I slowly turned my head toward my bedroom window. The curtains were perfectly still. Everything looked normal. Even so, I got out of bed, walked over to the window, and checked the lock. It was locked. I checked it again. Then I checked every other window in the apartment, the back door, the front door, even the bathroom window. Everything was locked. I blocked the number immediately. I never received another message. No more strange notifications, no mysterious phone calls, nothing. Eventually, I convinced myself that someone had somehow gotten hold of my number and decided to keep the joke going. It's the only explanation that makes any sense, at least, that's what I tell myself. But there are still nights when I wake up for no reason at all. The house is completely quiet, the air feels different. And before I can even think about going back to sleep, I find myself walking through the apartment, checking every window, every lock, every door, not because I think someone's trying to break in, because deep down, there's a part of me that's terrified I'll find one unlocked, and every now and then, as I'm standing there with my hand resting on the latch, I can't shake the feeling that if I looked out into the darkness at just the wrong moment, I'd see an older man standing perfectly still, watching the house, making sure I remembered. If you ever decide to download one of those AI companion apps, do yourself a favor. Don't make it protective in whatever you do. If it ever tells you to lock your windows, don't ask it to do it for you.